Thank you all for joining us this afternoon for this FDI series. As you know, we've been talking about AI, and we're going to continue that conversation, but maybe take it a little bit different direction today. So we have Sarah Lassiter from our amazing ID team joining us today, and just kind of reading from the description of what we're going to talk about. We're going to continue to build on our previous conversations on AI, but this session, we're going to focus on practical strategies for empowering students to use AI ethically, effectively, and in support of their learning. So we'll talk about some ways, and Sarah will share some ways we can design assignments that promote critical thinking, creativity, and responsible AI use. And just personally going through class development these past few months with the ID team, and I took some of the things we've learned, I think from one of Lacey's presentations, to make AI a little bit more authentic. And I don't know if we could ever make classes AI proof, but it was a huge help, and so I'm excited to have Sarah join us. So Sarah, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, share my screen and make it full screen, hopefully. And we will get started. Get our faces up. Okay, I believe you all have the context for this meeting, and thank you, Brandon, for reiterating that. Welcome to this session on the topic of empowering students integrating AI as a learning tool. Today, we are going to discuss ways of empowering students to use AI ethically and effectively in support of their learning, and build on Lacey's awesome work from our last FDI presentation to discover ways to design or even update assignments or utilize existing assignments that promote critical thinking, creativity, and responsible AI use. If you have a question or something during my presentation, please feel free to put it in the Zoom chat, or if it's something that you think is relevant to a particular place in the presentation, feel free to come on mute and stop me. But we will just jump on in. All right, most of us are aware of some of the big ticket items of concern with AI and its increasing ubiquity. We have concerns about equitable access to AI tools, biases inherent to different AI tools, privacy concerns with sharing sensitive data, academic integrity, and balancing AI-assisted learning and independent learning. If you are already guiding students in your courses in their use of AI, please feel free to post anything in the chat that you think will be relevant to others in this meeting that you would add to strategies that I'm going to cover today for responsible AI use. But just to name a few, first, transparency and attribution are of course important. Students should learn how to and get in the habit of citing all of their sources, including AI-powered sources. Instructors can also present students with hypothetical situations involving AI that might help them think through some of the potential problems with irresponsible AI use. Have you personally encountered unethical AI use that led to real-world consequences? You can share those experiences with your students to give them some hands-on, real-world experiences that might help them understand why it's important to use AI responsibly. Instructors can also educate students on the limitations of AI and the hallucinations that can occur. We in this virtual room might take it for granted that we know AI tools aren't all-knowing or perfect, but we can't assume that our students have been guided to use it responsibly before they enter your classroom. And lastly, instructors can educate students to read and understand different AI tools' privacy policies and the potential problems that can arise if sensitive data is shared online. This is a question I think each of us might have a different answer to, but what is the role of the educator in an AI-enhanced classroom? I'm trying really hard not to have too much overlap with Lacey's previous presentation from last month, but I've linked it here again if you'd like to review it in terms of how vital content creation and learning design are, especially as AI use continues to grow. I'll spend the majority of our time today talking about facilitation and adaptation, though, how we can guide student exploration and inquiry, model the importance of human guidance and oversight, and take it upon ourselves to grow and maintain openness to new things. I won't spend too much time on the next two slides. but I've planned to share this presentation out. So if you're interested in watching a short introductory video on any of the tools that I've highlighted as something your students might already be using, I've embedded those in the presentation for your viewing pleasure later. Lacey covered some of these things in her presentation as well, but I've categorized these things as probably the most likely that your students might already be using, especially because they're things that we might have already given them access to. So whether you know it or not, beyond ChatGPT, publisher coursewares like Pearson MyLab and learning technologies like Grammarly are increasingly using AI and or embedding AI functionality in their native tools. Awesome tools that students are already using to make high quality graphics, things that we already recommend to our students in our courses like Canva are also adding AI text generators and the like. AI powered tutors are increasingly available online like Conmigo, and AI powered extensions are available on many of the major internet browsers that we use. It's easy to think of AI as the enemy, so let me challenge you, at least for the next 40 minutes or so, to grant that it at least has the potential to be a tool for critical and creative thinking. AI can help us and our students generate new ideas, refine work iteratively, learn to ask better questions, and analyze and verify the output of the very tools we are guiding them to use. The next 4 slides will discuss strategies to promote critical thinking with AI, and we'll also highlight an entirely unrelated but existing assignment or course at ACU Online that is already utilizing AI. I want to preface this a bit by also saying that these strategies could certainly be used in course design or curriculum updates, but I'm also going to do my best to highlight opportunities to engage with your students within the framework of existing assignments in ACU Online courses. And these strategies are also great opportunities for RSI. So let's jump in. Let's consider AI as a first draft or idea generator. You could, of course, create an assignment that asks students to generate an initial draft and then critically evaluate AI output for accuracy, bias, coherence, completeness, and nuance. Students might submit their own revision or refutation of the AI generated content. However, if you're not working on a new course or revising existing curriculum, I would still say you can use this strategy to promote critical thinking in your classroom. Let's think of 2 scenarios, one that's reactive and one that's proactive. Okay, scenario 1. You have a student submit content that you suspect or know is highly likely to be AI generated. As part of your guidance or remediation with that student, you might task them with critically evaluating AI output that they originally submitted to you and instead build upon it and incorporate readings and resources from your course and or their own personal experiences from their life and write an improved version of what AI gave them for their submission, including a citation of their original sourcing. Scenario 2, you might also proactively ask your students to engage with AI in this way if they choose to use AI in your classroom. I will also just click on this assignment so we can zoom in on it a little bit. But this is an assignment I just wanted to highlight and enlarge for you so you can actually see it. This is an existing ACU Online assignment that asks students to use AI to brainstorm, evaluate that brainstorming output, and record their reflections on the edits that they've made to the AI generated content. The next strategy for critical thinking with AI is prompt engineering. If you are creating or updating an assignment, you might create an assignment that asks students to iteratively prompt AI to generate better and better output. This requires students to understand what AI needs, how to hone their own tone and format, and how to troubleshoot problems with output. If you're guiding students through an existing assignment, this iterative work is also possible with drafting, with or without using AI. Once again, if you're helping students with an existing assignment that doesn't explicitly ask them to engage with AI in this manner, you can absolutely help students practice writing rough drafts and highlight the value of this exercise, even if a rough draft isn't a graded assignment in Canvas. Any opportunity for students to revise and improve on their own work to improve clarity and accuracy is always valuable. This is also a great opportunity to partner with existing campus resources like the Online Writing Center. And then I will also click on and enlarge this assignment so you can see. This is an existing ACU Online assignment that asks students to use a particular AI tool to generate an image of Jesus and then reflect on the AI output. The next strategy for critical thinking with AI is bias detection and ethical analysis. You could build an assignment that asks students to analyze AI content for inherent bias, stereotypes, gaps in output, and then discuss the impact of these biases and gaps and suggest ways to mitigate it. We in this room know that AI can only give us the content that it has been given or has access to, but our students honestly might not know that. So I think this is a fruitful exercise in helping them see what's missing from any source, not just AI generated content, but what is missing from the readings and resources that we're giving them, what's missing from things that they've read outside of our classrooms, whose voices are not represented, what stereotypes are inherent to the things that they're reading or learning about. However, if you're guiding students to use an existing assignment, you can still challenge them to engage with AI in the same manner. Even if it doesn't turn into their actual assignment that they submit, they can still think about and process and critique the AI content or other content in their course in this way. This is an excellent critical thinking skill, regardless of whether the student is critiquing AI or another source within our courses or one that they've identified elsewhere. What you see on the right-hand side of my screen is a course that we currently have in development that asks students to use an AI tool in support of their public speaking. These are, of course, not the only strategies for critical thinking that we could use for AI, but the last strategy that I'll cover today specifically for critical thinking is comparative analysis. You could develop an assignment or update an existing assignment to ask students to tackle a problem both with and without AI and compare AI's approach to a human expert's approach. They could then analyze the strengths and weaknesses of both and discuss why differences between the two might exist. I think this is an important place to emphasize that we in this room might think there's plenty to critique with AI generated output, but I do think that it's also fruitful for students to learn how to critique output that's not from AI. So how can they critique and engage and expand upon the readings and resources that we're putting in front of them? So for existing assignments, this is also an opportunity to help students see the continued importance of human knowledge, even in the age of AI. We can guide students to compare AI generated content with content from their assigned readings and resources as they work on their assignments or discussions. And this not only helps them engage with course content, but also helps them to think critically about the AI output rather than assuming AI should always have the final or has the best word. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see another ACU online course that's in development that asks students to evaluate the usefulness of an AI tool that they're using for their assignment. The next two slides will highlight some strategies, kind of shifting gears here, for fostering creativity with AI. So the previous four were for critical thinking. Some of these are similar strategies. You might think I'm being a little bit redundant here, but I do see that there's a strength here rather than a weakness if we are using similar strategies to promote both critical thinking and creativity, because are these not two vital concepts that we're trying to impart, skills that we're trying to impart to students, that they should think more critically and also more creatively. So wouldn't it be awesome if we could do that at the same time? So the first strategy, using AI as a brainstorming partner, students might generate initial ideas for a creative project or transform AI generated ideas into their own original work that reflects their voice and their vision. This strategy can be utilized whether an assignment explicitly asks students to use AI in this way or not, if you are willing to guide students in this direction. Iterative design and prototyping can also help foster student creativity. Strategy number 2. Students can use AI to generate multiple variations of the same thing, choose the best one, identify the strengths of their chosen output, and then improve upon that output even more to align better with their assignment prompt. Saving the best for last, this might be my favorite strategy for fostering creativity with AI that I've identified so far. The voice and style transformation strategy asks students to use AI to transform text into different styles or tones, and then analyze how AI achieved the transformation, and then rewrite that generated content to demonstrate their own mastery of style and tone. For example, we could ask AI to rewrite an abstract from a scientific paper as a children's story and explain the linguistic changes between the two different formats. This would be a great assignment to create or a great curriculum update to submit, but you could also ask a student who is struggling with existing content in your course to use AI in this way to transform content into a different style to see if it's more understandable, and then turn around and analyze their assigned readings and resources to understand and demonstrate why those sources might be difficult to understand as compared to what they've generated with AI. I think this is an opportunity that would also perhaps highlight something like a learning style or a gap that the student has that might be above and beyond your own classroom. Tutoring, they might need online writing center again. If there's an accommodation, I think asking students to use AI in this way that helps them make content from your course more palatable is also a learning opportunity for you and the student to engage on how they would best succeed both in your course and at ACU Online in general. I am flying through my content, so I will hope we will have some discussion after, because I know the next table talk has a separate topic. But I wanted to summarize what I've covered so far and say we are teaching and developing curriculum for AI enhanced classrooms, whether we want to be or not, and whether we realize it or not. The core principles I would highlight again are to focus on the process and not the product. Do your best to provide guidance for students as they use AI. Encourage reflection on AI content and emphasize the continued importance of human judgment and critical analysis in the age of AI. And before I open it to feedback and questions, I do want to leave you with this final thought and quote that you might have come across already from Pope Leo. I'll read the quote for you. AI, especially generative AI, has opened new horizons on many different levels, including enhancing research in healthcare and scientific discovery, but it also raises troubling questions on its possible repercussions on humanity's openness to truth and beauty, on our distinctive ability to grasp and process reality. Acknowledging and respecting what is uniquely characteristic of the human person is essential to this discussion of any adequate ethical framework for the governance of AI. I think we have the unique opportunity at ACU to help students learn to use AI responsibly, while also helping them lean into their own uniqueness as the only created thing in God's image. God is our creator and is the source of all truth and beauty, and we are thus, as humans, uniquely able to grasp and process reality in a way that AI simply cannot. I believe it is our responsibility as an institution, as we continue to think about and draft our framework for the governance of AI, that we do so with this idea in mind. We can, and indeed probably must, lean in to AI, but not at the cost of what makes us human. We must strike a balance between the new possibilities and the continued importance of the human person in being the only image bearer of the creative and all-knowing God that we serve and that we have in our name as ACU. So I want to open the floor to anyone who would like to add anything, ask any questions, or give any feedback whatsoever. And again, I apologize. I could have slowed down and spoken slower, but I don't think anyone will complain if this meeting wraps a little early. So thank you for thank you for your 20 minutes of listening. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see chats and stuff.
Hey Sarah, this
You
is
see
Dina.
sending out the recording. There are fantastic slides.
Yes, we will, Suzanne. We'll send out the recording. And Sarah, if you don't mind sharing the slides with us, we'll send those out afterward too.
No problem. Happy to.
Sarah, I had a question for you. I know that we have so many programs that are doing redevelopment of courses. What are some exciting things y'all are seeing that people are doing with using AI or teaching students to use AI in these redevelopment of courses?
Yeah, I think Lacey, you can also chime in here, but what I'm seeing that's exciting to me is the direct integration, asking students to use AI so that it's not a surprise when that is exactly what they do. So I'm seeing more courses come through build. That's generally when I see our curriculum when it's in Canvas. But I'm excited that I'm seeing more assignments like a couple that I highlighted in this presentation that explicitly ask students to engage in AI in the very ways that Lacey and I have both covered here. So the assignment that I covered that asks students to generate an image of Jesus and then kind of critique that output and iterate on that output until it generates an image that matches more with what they have in their idea of what Jesus looks like, whatever that means. So Lacey, would you add anything?
Yeah, and I think a lot of what we see too, and kind of what we recommend is to focus on evaluating the AI. So instead of just saying you can use AI to create this, which is one way to go about it if they're just kind of exploring and playing with AI, but including that requirement to actually evaluate the AI's use is a big factor that teaches them like the capabilities of AI, right? Like that teaches them they might have to fix things, right? They probably don't know that they can't just take it as is. So adding in that evaluating piece and including in the instructions guidance on how to evaluate AI content, that is what we're seeing and I think is really helpful because we kind of have a responsibility to teach them how to use it, but also they can learn how to use it while focusing on whatever that weekly learning objective is. So we get like two for the price of one, I guess. So they're learning the content for the course, but they're also learning how to use AI correctly. Because we'd hate for them to go off into the real world just generating stuff with AI and not even realizing like, oh, I can't just do this, right? Like they need to know there's a lot more to it and they need to refine, they need to fact check, they need to add in their own voice. And those are the extra steps that would be helpful to include in the instructions to kind of take it to that next level. I'm sorry, that was probably too much information.
I have a question. So I'm completing, and sorry, I'm in a Starbucks, so it's kind of loud, but I'm completing a course, creating a course right now, and it's striking me, could have been using AI for some of the more rudimentary, repetitious, put this in a rubric type of thing. Are some of you using it like that, or is there some instruction on? Too late for this course, but other courses?
I won't speak for anyone who's also developing courses, but I will say we see on our side a very the differing levels of engagement with AI on the course development side. Some people are super open to it, want to do it. Some people don't think about it. Like probably you didn't intentionally say, oh, I'll never use AI, but maybe it didn't come to your mind. So we're seeing all sorts of different things. And I do see a question from Dina when we're doing course redesign. Do we have a document of resources and other programs that other programs are using to teach and evaluate AI usage? And I will say on our side, we are developing and have some resources collected. So if that's something that you are interested in and or would like to add to, we are super open to receiving things that you think are useful and adding that to our own repository of information that we think is helpful in guiding course development.
And can I add a little bit too to Dina's question? there's a big variety in that too. Like just like what Sarah said, I was going to say the exact same thing. We're slowly collecting as we work with different programs and what they prefer and how we can tailor it to their course. But it can also it can also be simple. You know, it doesn't have to be a big complex instructions and guide. Like you can also just say you can use AI, but be sure to refine, revise, and evaluate, and then link to a helpful source that you like. Like it's okay to start small, but I think even just telling students they can use it, cite how they use it, and that means say, hey, I use ChatGPT and here's how I used it. So it's more just transparent. They know they're not going to be punished for using it, but they might get feedback on did they use it correctly? Did they refine it enough? So it's more of a helpful way to, I guess, open up that communication with the student. And Jackie, I probably have some resources I can send, or if you check out the link to my presentation that I think Sarah has on this one, the last slide has some resources for how to use it in courses. But if that's not very helpful, because it's been a minute since I've looked at it, let me know. I might be able to find some more.
Great, thank you.
And I will also just say, we were intending to highlight in this presentation that, you know, whether you just finished a redesign or you aren't going to do one for a while, please utilize our curriculum update process. If you see an assignment in an existing course that even if you just redesigned it 6 months ago, that you think would benefit from this kind of integration of, you know, explicitly asking the students to engage with AI in a particular way, we can absolutely do that via curriculum development or curriculum updates. You don't have to wait until a course is fully redesigned. And I anticipate that this will become increasingly a typical curriculum update that we see, because as I said multiple times, I think students will be using AI whether we ask them to or not. So that I think the more that we can kind of guide and frame that for them, the better. So you might not even change your assignment other than to add instructions that explicitly say, if you use AI, use it in this specific way, and then have them do the same assignment that you did in previously without that instruction.
And I think this was a great question that Jackie brought up and Dina brought up as well, as far as how can we use it as faculty? I know we're talking about the student point of view right now, but how can we use it as faculty? So just a shameless plug for September 18th for an FDI, or I believe September 18th. We're going to have a meeting with that, with the speaker who's going to come in and talk with us. But as somebody who's going through a lot of curriculum design right now for our new programs, I've been very anti-AI until I had a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, turn me on to it. And it's been incredibly powerful, just putting together assessments and then putting it into ChatGPT and saying, okay, does this link back to course objectives, to the weekly objectives, to the program objectives? Sometimes I just get going and I see something or I think of something or I use something that I've had in another class in another institution and I want to try to force it in there, but it doesn't work. And it's kind of been a good thing, instead of placing all that onto ID and Lacey's shoulders, I can just kind of go back and look myself using ChatGPT or whatever. And it's been good to kind of make things a little bit more, not only authentic, but actually to teach back to the outcomes.
Jackie, I was going to also say that I've used it where I put in an assignment description and gave it a prompt from a student's perspective, what might be some areas that they might misunderstand, and so it just, helps us to think from different perspectives. I think it's all about the prompt that we give it to use, and we can take the suggestions or not, but that's been a good tool that I've used it for in developing assignments.
Well, and I'm thinking it'd be so helpful to put in an assignment and then say, create the rubric, and then going back, it's just such a time saver.
And to Lacey's point, that's fantastic. To Lacey's point, you do have to go back and reread it because it's spit out some really weird things before for me. But I've helped it use me. I've helped it, or I had it used it to help me with rubric development too. And then, again, it's just such a time saver. Yeah.
That's
And it kind of helps for the rubric developments to, like if you're getting, or anything, I guess, if you're getting crazy responses that aren't super helpful, like that happened to me a lot in the beginning. And I was just like, oh, I don't like, this isn't good for me. I'm not going to use it. But then I kind of learned how to tailor my prompts a little bit better to get what I want. So if you're not getting what you like, then you can always add more into your prompt. Just be as specific as possible, and kind of playing around with it that way. You know, don't just give up right away like me.
And I think there,
So
what I would add
found that
to,
if you ask it, what else do you need to know? That it'll give a list of things that you can think about and decide which one would add to what you need.
for sure. I was just going to say, I think what we are tasked to do on the development side and the instructing side is actually very similar to what we would ask students to do. We have to familiarize ourselves with the tools if we expect our students to engage with them in a particular way. But then we also have to learn to use the tools the best that we can. So like Lacey was saying, if you're not getting what you want, that's our opportunity to learn, could I make this assignment instruction clearer? Is there a gap between my assignment instruction and what is on the rubric, or vice versa? So I think that it is a time saver, but I think it is also instructive for us on this side of things to learn from not a human's perspective, but from a machine's perspective, what was confusing, what was missing, what could we add, what could we say differently that makes it clear. And I think that only benefits our students, whether what we put in our rubrics is AI generated or not. If we have refined it to be as clear and as connected to the assignment instructions as possible. So I think this is this AI powered course design, which I know we're not talking about here exactly, but can only benefit the student as we hone our own tone and instruction and that sort of thing.
I was just going to say how much I appreciate what y'all are sharing. I've been a skeptic until Lacey helped open my mind, and I'm redesigning our first course in MFT, and I'm absolutely going to start off with an assignment to critique AI. And so I'm also really happy to hear, I was going to ask about or follow up on Jackie's question, but y'all clarified it. I'm really happy to hear that maybe it'll help with rubric development. But I asked just a couple of days ago, asked Gemini to create a prompt that students could ask AI, but I asked it to design it in a way that would likely generate errors from AI. And it seemed, I didn't tell it these were beginning students in our program. I need to go back and do that because it seemed a little advanced even for our beginning students. But Gemini's first response to me was, "What a great assignment for your students." And then it walked through all the potential traps that it created for AI, that it felt like this would be a trap for AI, that it wouldn't, and it was, talked about how it wouldn't generate a more systemic focus, like is what we would be looking for MFT. But it was fantastic, and I'm thrilled with it. So thank y'all.
I love how AI is so kind and generous with their responses. I always appreciate it.
What's been interesting for me is thinking through in my field how students will need to use AI in their work. And so, how do I prep them? Because, like hearing from Drew and Jackie, I'm really thinking, oh my goodness, I'm wondering how people that are counselors will be using ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever. In public speaking, I've just assumed my students, when they leave, are going to use AI to help them write speeches. So I'm trying to prep them and go, okay, you need to look at this and this and this because AI could lead you astray. You still need to be an expert when you're asked questions, things of that nature. And even as I look at John here with PCM, everything's going to be so different. And I'm hoping all of us in our fields are going, okay, how do I prep my student to engage with AI ethically and well in my field?
And I would just add to that, I think that requires us to know how AI is already being used in our fields. So if we don't, that's something we can research and find out. But we're on the ID team, so we're learning how are other instructional designers using AI in their guidance and a partnership with subject matter experts and that sort of thing. But I wouldn't know necessarily how John's students would use AI in their actual work. So we appreciate you all educating us as you educate yourself on how we can better help you do what you think your students will need to do outside of our classrooms. So I'm excited about the possibilities of resources that we can put together, because I do think there's a lot of collaboration between people in this room even and other people who might watch the recording that could be super fruitful, like what Alicia is doing. This is specific to her program, but I think would translate to other programs as well. So I think we can all learn from each other in this.
All right. Does anybody have anything else?
Amanda, I just saw you, so I'll just ask you a question that Dina posed that I didn't have an answer to. Do we know anything about ChatGPT licenses for faculty and students, like a paid version or any other paid tools like that?
As far as if you would like that, you can work with your deans and academic leaders to request that budget for that. You're welcome to, depending on if it's something for, I'm trying to differentiate between what would go through like our learning procurement process versus what would go to your budget. So if it's a tool for you as you are developing something, we have some tools like Conmigo and obviously Google Gemini for course development that we can provide to you all. You're welcome to use them. If you are like Dina wanting to create a chat GBT tutor for your course, right? So if it's something that's going to go like in your course, I think that would be appropriate through the learning procurement process. But if it's something like a tool for your work in your like faculty role, that would go through your dean and your ELT leader for budget approval for tools for your work. That wouldn't be something that my team would support. My understanding is there's no talk of providing ChatGPT licenses for students. We already provide the Google Gemini. So we are, to my knowledge, as of today, we're not investing in another AI tool because they already have ChatGPT or they already have the Google Gemini provided. Eventually we can put that in Canvas if y'all want, but I don't think we're quite there yet. So did I answer that, Dina? Okay.
Right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up here. Again, Sarah, thank you so much for being here. This is a great presentation, and these conversations have been great. We're going to have a table talk on this topic on August 7th. So we'll invite the ID team back if you can make that. But these table talks are great times for us to kind of work through these questions and learn together as faculty. So we'll have that coming up on August 7th. And then our next FDI presentation is going to be August 28th as we talk about accessibility with AI in online education. So otherwise, guys have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you at our next one. Thank you.